Many involved in Freemasonry claim that it is not a religion. It's just a secret society, a club, an organization. Stay with me as I present very clear evidence that proves that Freemasonry is a religion. It is a religion of universalism, in their own words, in their own literature, from many of their own leaders. Scripture is not discerned by opinion. You cannot rightly apply the Bible until you first rightly divide the Bible. We do not get to decide what the Bible means. We get to discover what the Bible means. What does God's Word say in regard to organizations like the Masons, the Gideons, or other fraternal or sorority organizations? Okay, but first of all, let me dissect the question. The Masons, the Masonic Lodge, is nothing like what the Gideons are. It's completely on a different planet. That's comparing kangaroos to cotton balls, okay? Nothing similar there whatsoever. Very different. In fact, if you print out a membership form to the Gideons, you'll find it's very scriptural and biblical based down through there, okay? Not the case otherwise, but we'll get to that in a minute. As far as fraternal organizations, they don't align with what I see in the Masonic Lodge. It's not an accurate comparison. There's no way to compare those. So let me move that aside. That's the question. Okay, I'm gonna answer you by reading a lot of things right out of the Masonic Lodge, okay, Bible. I have one of those, and from past leaders, worshipful leaders, Grand Master, whatever you want. I have documents from them. This is my file on the Masonic Lodge. Okay? That's my file on what I've read, studied, all these kinds of things, and watched. So I'm not speaking without being at least knowledgeable to some degree of what I'm talking about. My father, my uncle, my grandfather were all very much involved. I heard and saw a lot of things that probably most people do not see and hear. Okay? My dad was a little loose with sharing things that aren't supposed to be shared, supposedly. So let me begin with, it says Holy Bible. It's got Masonic symbols on it all around. It's presented by the ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, Valley of Altoona, Pennsylvania. I believe this was my father's. It has the King James Bible, I believe the 1611 edition or whatever, in the back portion of it, but there are Masonic helps. I'm going to read their own words. Okay? This is what they teach. I'm going to say right up front that there are many who say it's just a club and organization and not a religion. When you have an altar, a temple, you talk about worship and you use a lot of religious symbols, I'm sorry, but it comes across as a religion, not a club. I belong to a club, Hollingsburg Consolidated Sportsman's Club. There's nothing out there that isn't even remotely close to anything worship. Okay? Different planet. Okay. In the front of this, there is an explanation. If you do not understand, there's the York Rite and the Scottish Rite, and it's kind of like a compass, a contractor's compass that you draw circles with, that kind of thing, that kind of compass, okay, you measure things with. There are 33 degrees that you go through to graduate up to the top of the list. You work your way through. In this, there is an explanation in the front of what these different degrees are as you work up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 33, okay? A lot of Bible verses thrown in. The ones that I have looked at, I've not read every single one, the ones that I've looked at are completely and entirely out of context. Okay, I feel like I'm preaching already. I really struggle with some of this stuff. Okay, hope, that's a Bible word. It's not used the same way. We are saved by hope. That's what they teach. You're not saved by grace. You're not saved by grace through faith. We're saved by hope. That's what they say. Now, you tell me if that's biblical. In the Masonic Creed, I'm skipping way ahead. The Masonic Creed, one of the creeds is this: character determines destiny. Really? So my destiny is determined by my character, not Christ? No Mason needs to be told what a place of honor the Bible has in Masonry as a symbol. It's considered one of the great lights in the order. I'm reading from their teaching. It lies open on the altar at the center of the lodge. If it's not a religion, why do you refer to the Bible, and why do you have an altar? And why is it called a Masonic temple? It's a religion. I'm skipping down. Thus, by the very honor which Masonry pays to the Bible, it teaches us to revere every book of faith. Every book of faith is the same as the Bible, which men find help for today and hope for tomorrow, joining hands with the man of Islam as he takes his oath on the Quran, and with the Hindu as he makes his covenant with God upon the book that he loves best. Pick one. They're all the same. For Masonry knows what so many forget, that religions, little r, are many. But religion, big R, is one. That's Universalism. That's exactly what that is. Perhaps we may, listen to this, perhaps we may say one thing, but that one thing includes everything. What? The life of God in the soul of man and the duty and hope of man which proceed from his, remember what I said? Character determines destiny. Proceeds from his essential character. It's all about your character. Therefore, it invites to its altar men of all faiths, knowing that if we use different names, now listen to this, if we use different names for the nameless one of 100 names, what? I'm telling you, when you read some of this stuff, there is so much circular mumbo jumbo, it's like, they are yet praying to the one God and Father of all, but that's the universal God, not the God of the Bible. It's a universal God. It's Allah, it's Vishnu, it's whatever God deity. You're actually praying to them all because they're all in one. That's what this teaches. Knowing also that while they read different volumes, they are in fact reading the same vast book of faith. No, I'm sorry. When you read, and I'm going to point out some of these other books of faith, the Quran or the Bhagavad Gita, it is not the same book of faith. It is not in the same place as the Bible. But that's what they teach. They're all the same. It's all a book of faith. The same vast book of faith as revealed in the struggle and sorrow of man and the human race. Now listen to this. Nonetheless, much as we honor every book of the faith in which any man has found courage, to any man of any faith, to lift his hand above the night that covers him and lay hold of the mighty hand of God, with us the Bible's supreme. But what Homer was to the Greeks, that is the Iliad and the Odyssey, to the Greeks, that was their holy books. What the Quran is to the Arabs, that and much more, so the Bible is to us. They're all the same. Just pick one. There's all kinds of symbolism. I'm not going through all the symbolism. They have little explanations in here of what all the symbols are in the Masonic Lodge. By the way, if you've ever been to a Masonic funeral service, I've been to several. It's extremely a religious event. Not biblical, but it's religious. Jacob's ladder, I'm picking one. What is the Masonic symbolism of Jacob's ladder? Well, Jacob's ladder, that's in the Bible. It must be Bible-based, right? Wrong. It is Jacob's ladder. Jacob's ladder, you know Jacob's vision? He saw a ladder coming down from heaven to earth, and he saw what? Descending up and down. What did he see? Angels. Not man. Angels descending up and down on the ladder. It is a symbol of progress, your progress. This is how it's taught. The ladder is a symbol of your progress. You see, the rungs are the degrees, and you're making your way up to the Grand Lodge. Your character determines your destiny. It's three principal rounds representing faith, hope, and charity. Now, they take those three and say that's the basis of the motivation of your character, just like Paul taught. That's a manipulation and a misquote of the Bible. But it makes it sound biblical, but it's not. It's religious. Now listen to this. Presenting us with the means of advancing from heaven to earth. From earth to heaven. You get from earth to heaven through Jacob's ladder and ascending up the degrees to the Grand Lodge. From death to life, from mortal to immortal. Hence, its foot is placed on the ground floor of the lodge, which is typical of the world, and its top rests on the covering of the lodge, which is symbolic of heaven. If that isn't religion, I don't know what is. They're teaching a religion. It's not biblical. It's not Christianity. One other one. Light is a big thing, but light not as you and I. See, they take light from the Bible. Jesus said, I'm the light of the world. He said, you're lights of the world. And they use that terminology and actually quote Bible verses about that light, but they mean something entirely different. But unless somebody digs down into it, which most members, listen, I'm going to say right now, I believe there's some very good people involved in that do not understand all this stuff, that have never dug down deep. Light. What is the symbolism of light? And it's always capitalized. Light is a symbol of knowledge. That's Gnosticism. And it goes on, I won't read the rest of the paragraph. It goes on to explain that the more knowledge, the more light. And when you bring knowledge to the lodge, you're bringing light. And they make it sound biblical. It's religious, it's not biblical. It's taking a Bible term and taking it completely out of context, turning it on its head and making it mean something else. This is from a past Grand Master. It is indeed a kind of religion unto itself. The practice of Freemasonry includes temples, altars, a moral code, worship services, vestments, feast days, a hierarchy of leadership, initiation and burial rites, and promises of eternal reward and punishment. That's a religion. And it's not Christianity. Numerous teachings and beliefs put forth by the Masonic Lodge are incompatible and in cases in direct conflict with clear biblical principles, teachings, and doctrine, and that came from somebody who used to be way up in leadership there. Masonry then, in exhibiting to them a simple ladder, offers the symbol of significance of which is calculated to open widely the eyes of their imagination. It is true that the instruction lecture, the ladder, is expressly referred to that of Jacob in the familiar biblical episode, and that ladder is then given a moral significance. No, that's wrong. And made to suggest the way by which man may ascend from earth to heaven by climbing its symbolic rungs. Therefore, your character determines your nature or your destiny. And especially by utilizing in three chief ones representing, here it is again, faith, hope, and charity. Doesn't that sound biblical? It's wrong. It twists Scripture. This moral interpretation is warranted and salutary, but it is far from exhaustive, and it conceals rather than reveals what Jacob's ladder really means. Okay. Laura, do we have those pictures of those books? Okay. If you want fast facts on this and information, the books are both put out by John Ankerberg. I encourage you to Google. He has done hundreds, if not thousands of hours of research, interviewing people who have come out of the Masonic Lodge. These are very available. They're not very big, but it just takes you right down through the nuts and bolts. I would encourage you to pick those up, okay? Now, I'm going to close with this. I'm going to close this part, and then I'm actually going to preach in a minute. Okay. We couldn't use the picture I wanted to use because of copyright issues. At the Grand Lodge, Grand Temple, whatever, in Washington, D.C., which if you look at pictures online, you see all kinds of, it is extremely ornate. You cannot look at that and say that that's not some sort of worship, some sort of religion. You can't look at that, okay? When I go out to the clubhouse at the gun club that I belong to, which is an actual club, you walk in there, it's like, okay, there's nothing in here about worship or religion. You look at these pictures and it's like, that's some sort of church. If you would not read the title, you'd show it to people, they'd say, that's some sort of church, some sort of religion. Okay. On the altar, if it's not a religion, why do you have an altar? On the altar, there is a picture where there are 4 books on the altar, okay? One's the Bhagavad Gita. That's the Hindu religious book, okay? You ever want to read something that's twist your mind around in knots? That's one, okay. Bhagavad Gita, okay. Another one on that altar, sitting next to it, is the Quran. Here's a copy of the Quran, okay? Another one next to it is the Bible. Okay, I do not have a copy of the Tanakh, the Orthodox Jew religious book of rules and all that kind of stuff, the Tanakh history. I do have a Jewish Bible, okay, which is simply the Old Testament. So I'm going to put that there representing the Tanakh. So let's see. I'll just pick one of these today. How comfortable would you be, me just opening up the Bhagavad Gita and attempting to preach a message out of that or to teach something out of that? Okay? That's on the altar. It's a religion, and it is universalism, and it is human-based. There's no mention of the sacrifice of Jesus Christ in their teachings, of surrendering to Him, of being born again. It's not there. I've read them. There's allusions to that. Stay far away from it. I would hope you would have some sort of conniption fit, whatever one of those look like, okay? If I were to stand up here and just pick out, let's sample out of the Quran today because these books are all equal, right? And if I can get faith and truth out of here, that's what they teach. I just read it from their own words. I realize there are good causes that are supported. I realize the Children's Hospital, the Burn Center, I understand all. You can support those kinds of things without belonging to that. Okay? Why not the Book of Mormon? That's a book of faith. How about the Jehovah's Witness, Doctrine and Covenants and Pearl of Great? I mean, we have so many faith books. Whatever you lay hold of, you can just use because they're all the same. And whatever God you're praying to, it's all the same God. That's what they teach. Okay.